Hello class, welcome to the next lesson in 8th grade Eureka Math. Here we go with Module 4, Lesson 16, called the Computation of Slope. Computation of Slope. So yesterday in Lesson 15, we learned about how to find slope by looking at it, by finding up and right. Today we're going to learn the slope equation, the slope formula, how to find slope even if you do not have the graph in front of you, if you just have 2 points. But you'll need pages 181 through 195 of your Module 4 workbook. So go ahead and get those pages out, get some pages out for notes, and let's begin. As always, quick reminder at the beginning of the video, if I'm going too fast and you need more time to write something down, feel free to pause the video. If you need to go back and rewatch something, that's fine. This is a video. You can go back and rewatch whatever you need to. Remember, you are in control of the speed of this video. So go back, rewatch, pause, catch up. Whatever you need to do, do it. And also remember that if you have any questions, if you need any specialized help, if you want to just talk to me and check your answers with me, you can always contact me by email or in our Google Classroom, and I'll be happy to meet with you to answer your questions and to help you with anything extra that you need. But let's begin Lesson 16 with our vocabulary. Here we go. 3 vocabulary terms today: rate of change, slope, and slope formula. Rate of change means the speed at which change happens, the speed that change happens at. In fact, rate of change is kind of a synonym for slope. Slope is the rate of change. How much something changes, how fast something changes, that is the slope. So rate of change and slope are connected. They mean the same thing. Slope is another term we saw in Lesson 15. We're going to talk about it again today, so it's on our vocabulary list. Slope is a number that describes the steepness and slant of a line. A number that describes the steepness, slant of a line. And yesterday in Lesson 15, we learned about slope. You learned how slope is up divided by right. And so you should know how to find slope. You should know that slope and steepness are connected. All that fun stuff from Lesson 15. The new word for today, slope formula. Slope formula is the equation we use to find slope from points. So slope formula finds slope using point coordinates. Finds slope using point coordinates. And that is the slope formula right here. So this is the big deal today. Slope formula, finding slope using coordinates. Finding slope using coordinates. So you can see m, the slope, equals, and these are the coordinates that you'll use. And don't worry, I'll explain that more in just a few minutes. But those are the vocabulary words: rate of change, which is a synonym for slope; slope, which talks about the steepness of a line; and the slope formula that finds the slope using the point coordinates. So today, we will use the slope formula to find the slope of lines. We're going to use the slope formula to find the slope of lines. That's what we're doing today. So let's look at the notes a little bit. Now, this is kind of what I wrote on the notes yesterday. I think it's a little bit different, but not too different. Here we go. Slope equals m. We learned that in Lesson 15. And in Lesson 15, we also learned that slope is up divided by right. Up divided by right. Now, it's a little bit different because I did talk about this yesterday, but today we're going to talk about it more, so I added on extra. Slope is up divided by right. Up means vertical change, which is also on a graph, the changing y, because y is the vertical axis. So changing y is the vertical change, is the up. Now, right means the horizontal change, the left and right change, which, because x is the horizontal axis, right means the changing x. So yesterday we said that slope is m, is up divided by right. Up is the changing y. Right is the changing x. Now, if you know coordinates of your line, you can use the y coordinate, use 2 points. You take 2 points, use the y coordinates of the points, and you use the x coordinates of the points to find the slope. You just see how the y changes in the 2 points, see how the x changes in the 2 points, divide them just like up divide by right. That gives you a slope. In fact, that is where I'm going to explain the slope formula right now, right here. This is lesson 16 stuff. If you have 2 points, R and P, so we have point R, we have point P. You need their coordinates to find the slope. So the R coordinates, we have R1 and R2. Now R1 is the x of R. R2 is the y of R. But the book calls them R1 and R2, so we're going to call them R1 and R2. So you have point R and you have your coordinates. And you have point P, and point P also has coordinates. P1 is the x of P, and P2 is the y of P. So you take these coordinates and you put them in the slope formula. So you take P2, which is the y in the P. You take R2, which is the y in the R. So you have the y's on top, and you have the 2's on top and the 1's on the bottom. And the 2's are the y's and the 1's are the x's. So you take P2 minus R2 divided by P1 minus R1. Or another way to say it is you have the y for P minus the y for R divided by the x for P minus the x for R. So there's 2 different ways you can think about it. You're taking the coordinates and you're putting the 2 coordinates, the 2's or the y's in the numerator. You're putting the 1's or the x's in the denominator. So it's y's divided by x's. You can think of it like that, y's divided by x's. Or you can say 2's divided by 1's. Whatever way you want to think about it, that's what you're doing. You're doing the second coordinate, the 2's or the y's divided by the 1's or the x's. The only important thing you need to remember is that if you put the P first in the numerator, you have to put the P first in the denominator. See right here? P goes first up here, P goes first down here. P goes first up here, P goes first down here. Very important because when you subtract like we're doing, the order is important. So if whatever you put first, you have to keep first. So if you put P first, P stays first. You put P first in the numerator, the P first stays in the denominator. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be using the formula to find slope. So let's practice this a little bit. Hopefully you got this formula. Make sure you have that formula. Make sure you're looking at it during all of the lesson today because that formula is going to be what we're using all day. Super important. So let's go to the first page of our work, page 181. Example 1. And it says, using what you learned in the last lesson, determine the slope of the line with the following graph. So I'm actually going to be using on this side, I'm going to be doing what we did in lesson 15. This side is going to be lesson 16. So lesson 15 is going to be over here, the way we did it in the last lesson. Lesson 16, using the formula, I'm going to do it over here. So I'm actually going to show you both ways. So lesson 15, we did up divided by right. So let's find some points that we can use here. Here's a point right here. We're at an intersection, and here's a point right here. So if we do it the way we did it yesterday, let's say, here's point R, here's point P. R and P, there we go. So we went up 3 and right 1. 1, 2, 3, and right 1. So we went up 3, right 1, which is 3 over 1, which is 3. So lesson 15 tells us the slope is 3. But lesson 16, now that's a lesson 16, going to be a little bit different. For lesson 16, we need the coordinates of R and P. Now, R is 2 on the X and 1 on the Y, 2, 1. P is 3 and 4. That's where P hits, 3, 4. Now we use our equation. Now remember our equation, M equals P2 minus R2 and P1 minus R1. Notice how I have the 2's on the top and the R's on the bottom. Notice how both of them start with the P. I did not switch them. Well, P2 is 4 because that's the Y. R2 is 1. So 4 minus 1 is in the numerator. Then I do P1, which is 3, minus R1, which is 2. So that's 4 minus 1 divided by 3 minus 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So M equals 3. So you see, I did it 2 ways. I did this 2 different ways. Lesson 15, we did up divided by right, and we got 3. Lesson 16, we used the coordinates, put them into the formula. We also got 3. Now, just looking at this, some of you are going to say, I like lesson 15 a lot better, which you might. You might like lesson 15 better because it looks simpler. But lesson 15 is better for simpler lines. Sometimes your lines will be super simple and lesson 15 will work. Sometimes the lessons will not be, and you will need lesson 16. There's also times where you might not see the line. Like this is really easy to count because we can draw these lines and we can count how many spaces we moved. But what happens if the book just gives you 2 points and asks what the slope is? What if they just give you the points? What if you cannot see the graph? Lesson 15 works if you can see the graph. If I take away the graph, you cannot do the lesson 15 strategy. You need the formula. If I give you the graph and it looks simple, sure, do lesson 15. But if there's no graph and I just give you points, you're going to have to use the formula. So it's important to know how to do both because sometimes it'll be simple, sometimes it'll be more complicated. Let's do another example with both lessons. So let's go for example 2. And we'll do the lesson 15 strategy, and we'll do the lesson 16 strategy again, just to give you a little bit more background. So, lesson 15, we did up divided by right, and it looks like we're going to need to pick some points. So let me pick this point here. We'll call that R. Let me pick this here. We'll call that P. We have 2 intersections, so that's pretty easy. And for lesson 15, we did up divided by right. So for this one, we went up 2, 1, 2. We went from 1 to 3, so that's 2. And right, we went from 0 to 1, so that's 1. It's 2 over 1, which is just 2. So lesson 15, the slope should be 2. So now you know what the answer should be if we do it the lesson 16 strategy. Lesson 16, we should also get 2. So not only is lesson 16 useful for when you do not have the graph, lesson 16 is also useful for checking your lesson 15 work, making sure you did everything correctly. So first what I need are my coordinates for R and for P. Well, R is at 0x and 1y. P is at 1x and 3y. Now I have my coordinates. I need my equation, which you are allowed to copy from your notes. M, the slope, is P2 minus R2 divided by P1 minus R1. And that is exactly what's in your notes, so you can use the formula that's in your notes. So look at your notes today. I don't think you have it memorized yet. I would like you to have it memorized soon. So let's take our coordinates and substitute. Remember, the x coordinates are the 1s and the y coordinates are the 2s. So let's do P2 is 3 minus R2 is 1. P1 is 1 and R1 is 0. So we substitute. Now let's subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. 1 minus 0 is 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So M is 2. We checked it. We get the same answer for both. M equals 2 according to lesson 15. M equals 2 according to the formula that we're doing in lesson 16. The slope is 2. You can see that this is valuable. Lesson 16 is useful if you just do not have the graph. Lesson 16 is useful to check lesson 15. Let's do one more example. Here we go. Example 3 right here on page 182. Again, we're going to do it the lesson 15 way and the lesson 16 way, just to give you plenty of practice with this. Now, again, we do not have the points, so we have to make some points. So find some intersections. You can use whatever intersections you want. I see this one right here. That's where it crosses. That's where the line hits an intersection. Not exactly there, there. Oh, here's another one right here. Crosses perfectly right there. So there's my R, there's my P. That'll work for me. So let's do this the lesson 15 way, which is up divided by right. So for this one, let's see, I start at 1, I go up to 3, so that's going up 2. On this one, I start at 2 and I go to 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 3 gaps, 3 numbers. So I went up 2, right 3, which is 2/3. So the slope is 2/3 according to lesson 15, 2/3. For lesson 16, we need to use coordinates. So let's use R coordinates and P's coordinates to check our work. Well, R is at 2x and 1y, 2, 1. P is 5x, 3y, so it's 5, 3. And remember, these are the x coordinates, also the number 1s, and these are the y's and number 2s, just so you know for your equation, for your formula. We use the slope formula, which was m equals P2 minus R2 divided by P1 minus R1. Now you'll notice a couple things. Remember the formula, 2's on top, 1's on bottom, and we start with P on both of them. I always start with the same one. I always start with the P's. Do not switch them. If I start with P up here, do not start with R down here. It will mess everything up if you switch them. Just use the formula that's in your notes. Well, P2 is 3. R2 is 1. P1 is 5. R1 is 2. Subtract 3 minus 1 is 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. M, again, is 2/3. You can see it. Both ways work. Both ways work. You can either look at the graph and count what you do, or you can use coordinates to find the slope. Both ways are effective. Both ways work. They'll just work at different times. If you have the graph and everything on the graph looks nice, lesson 15 is great. If you do not have the graph or the coordinates do not hit at intersections, you definitely should use the formula that we're doing in lesson 16. But that's what we're doing today. Now, exercise, page 183. There's just one exercise today, super short exercise, makes up for a little bit for lesson 15, which was kind of long. But let's see here. Part A, select any 2 points on the line to label as P and R. So we can pick anything we want on this. So like I said, for me, I like to find intersections. So like I see an intersection right here. That's going to be my R. I see another intersection right here. So I'm going to put that as my P. That works. So there I did part A, select any points to label. And then part B, identify the coordinates. So P's coordinates are -1 and 3. So P is -1, 3. R is -4x and -3y. -4, -3. So now I have my coordinates. Now it wants me to find the slope. So find the slope. Remember, m equals P2 minus R2 divided by P1 minus R1. So using my coordinates, I can find this. P2 is 3. R2 is -3. P1 is -1. R1 is -4. Okay, so I have some minus, some negatives. Okay, well, 3 minus -3 is actually just turns into 3 plus 3. And -1 minus -4, subtracting negative turns into addition, so that turns into +4. So I get 3 plus 3 divided by -1 plus 4. 3 plus 3 is 6. -1 plus 4 is 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So m equals 2. That's the slope. So that's the slope. Now, what I would like you to do right now, what they would like you to do is pick 2 different points and see what you get. Pick 2 different points and see what you get. Do this again with other things to see if you can get the same slope. So we did these for P and R. Maybe you want to pick this one for S and this one for T. So let's use S and T. We can do the same thing for S and T. So for S, we have -3, -1, because that's where S is, -3x, -1. T is -2, +1. So T is going to be -2, 1. Now, I'd like you to try this yourself real quick. Pause the video maybe and try solving it yourself. So take a minute, pause the video, use the formula for S and T now. See if you can get the same slope. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video, try it for S and T. Now we're going to use the equation again, only instead of P and R, we have S and T. So let's do m equals T2 minus S2 divided by T1 minus S1. You see, it's the same formula, the letters just changed. So you can use whatever letters you want, just as long as you pay attention to putting them in the right order. So again, whatever letters you want, just make sure the 2's are on top, 2's top, 2's top, 2's top. 1's underneath. And make sure you always start with the same thing. So I started with the 2's go on top, check. And I start with T, I start with T. So I start with T both times. I followed the rules for the formula. Now I just substitute. T2 is 1, S2 is -1. So 1 minus -1 divided by T1, which was -2, and S1, which is -3, minus -3. I have some minus negatives, so let's change those to positives. I get 1 plus 1 and -2 plus 3. So 1 plus 1 is 2, -2 plus 3 is 1. So the slope again is 2 with different coordinates. So you can see I got 2 again. What I'd like you to do this time is your free time. I'd like you to pick any other coordinates you want. So find something else. Maybe you want to pick, maybe you want to pick this one and this one. We can do A and B. Or you can combine them. You can do A and B, or you can do R and B, or T and A, or P and S. Whatever you want to do, keep practicing using the formula. The more you practice using this formula, the better you'll be. So right now you have room right here. You should have room right here to pick the coordinates yourself. Pick any coordinates you want and do it on your own. Practice again. So pick any of these. You have 6 to choose from. You have A, R, S, T, P, and B. Pick 2 of them. Pick 2 that we have not done yet and do it right here. Whatever you want. You just know at the end if you do it correctly. If you use the formula right, you should get m equals 2 when you're all done. Because the line does not change, the slope should not change, the rate of change does not change because it is linear. So m equals 2. That's just what I want you to do. Pick 2 of these that we have not done yet and do it again. And if you want more practice, pick 2 more and do it again. And then pick 2 more and do it again. Just keep practicing with these 6 points in different combinations. Try them, keep trying them, practice the formula, using the formula over and over and over again so you get better and better at using it. Because you know whichever combination you pick, and pick as many combinations as you want, whatever combination you pick, the answer should always be m equals 2. And that's the exercise today. I really want you just to keep practicing with these coordinates. Practice with these 6 choices using the formula, and just keep practicing until you're expert at it. And there will be more practice later on, but that is actually the end of the exercise. This exercise keeps going until you feel comfortable. Get a separate piece of paper, do different combinations until you feel like you're ready to move on. Just know the answer is always m equals 2. And then we can work on the problem set, because that's the end of the exercise in practice. Here's the lesson summary, and the lesson summary, of course, has the big thing right here where you have the slope formula. Page 185 is the exit ticket. Let's slide that to the back because we do that last. Page 187, the homework helper starts with more advice, and they give you more examples about how to do the slope formula. This one they used P and Q. This one they used R and Q, but they got the same slopes. Homework helper continues on page 188. Another example that you can look at, another example that will help you. And page 189, another example. And page 190, another example. Use the homework helper. Your problem set starts on page 191. And number 1 says calculate the slope of the line using 2 different pairs of points. So you're going to have to use the slope formula twice. You do it on this side using 2 points, and then pick 2 different points and use this side. So they want you to use the slope formula using 2 different pairs. And for number 2, same thing. Slope formula using 2 different pairs. So slope formula twice. Page 192, same thing. Problem set question number 3. Calculate the slope using 2 different pairs. Do the slope formula twice. Page 193, again, using two different pairs. Use the slope formula twice. They want you to be really, really good at using the slope formula. And yes, you guessed it, number 5. Again, use the slope formula with two different pairs of points. Use the slope formula. Get used to it. Slope formula is not going away anytime soon. Number 6, slope formula again. And it's using two different pairs. And there's 3 different steps asking you what you notice. Now, number 7 just says calculate the slope of the line. So you just have to use one pair, but it does say calculate. So please use the formula. If you want, you can check your work from using the lesson 15 strategy. But for when you start, just use lesson 16. So you can use lesson 15 to check, but I want you to do the slope formula also. I think the last page of your problem set has 3 more questions, 8, 9, and 10. Use the graphs. There is a challenge right here at the bottom where they give you the slope and they want you to give 2 points for that line. Possible 2 points. So this is like the challenge is kind of working backwards. The challenge is also working backwards. Number 10 also might be a little bit challenging because you have to explain the vertical line, slope of a vertical line. Why is it impossible to do slope on a vertical line? So you can do this, use the slope formula, keep the slope formula in front of you so that you have it. It's okay to look at your notes and use the slope formula as you're doing this. Also remember, my answers to the problem set are posted on the Google Classroom, so you can look at my answers to help you whenever you want. And remember, I am here to help you. You just send me a message and I will hop on and I will help you with any questions you have. I want you to do your best on this. I want you to succeed. I want you to excel. You just have to ask me for help. So ask for help if you get stuck. Check my answers on the Google Classroom. And then when you feel comfortable using the slope formula, go back to the exit ticket that was on page 185. And you'll see they give you one line, and they want you to pick 2 points, label P and R, give me the coordinates, and then use the slope formula, use the coordinates to find the rate of change, find the slope. So, and this is what you turn in. You take a picture of page 185, turn it into the Google Classroom assignment to show that you know how to use the slope formula. So that's the work for today. Make sure you ask me for help if you need it. My answers to the problem set are online. Remember to turn in your exit ticket, page 185. Have fun with it. Work hard. Do your best. Do not give up. I know you can do this. I'll see you for the next lesson.